Welcome to the Sin Bin Podcast, your home for all the news, analysis, and discussion around your Bloomington Bison.
Let's drop the puck and get started.
And welcome back. We are finally back with another Sin Bin Podcast episode. You just missed it. It was kind of a crazy time to try and get this episode started with Buster over here. He might be off camera right now, but he's being a little crazy to start off. But that's okay. We are finally back. It only took like a month or something. I don't know, man. It's been too long again. But yeah, we're back, and this time we have some great news. When we were back, it looked like we were really going to have to fight for a playoff spot to make it in, and turns out we've been fighting. We've been putting in the work. Since I last did my short recap, just the short video, that was the last video posted on this channel. We've only had about 5 games, so we'll recap those real quick and then talk about the rest of the playoff push and what that means for the Bison. And there's Buster over there barking at at his toy over there. You have your treat, Buster. Anyway, back to the games in hand. So the first game we had was that Indy Fuel game. Big. Again, those 2 games I talked about were the biggest games against the Fuel and the Kalamazoo. And sure enough, that first game against Indy was a W. Huge W to start off the last 8 games. And yeah, big W against Indy Fuel, 4-2 win. And it was a real fun game to be at too. It was, I don't know, anything do you say about that game? I mean, honestly, it was just really fun to be.
Well, I think anytime you get, obviously, same ownership group, whatever, but I think we've really kind of, I know we've had the rivalry with Iowa. That's kind of always been, standard, but I think what makes it fun is just kind of that inner ownership, at least from my point of view of like, it's always going to be good with Indy. I think it's fair enough for me and you to say we're biased towards somewhat of Indy because we're Blackhawk fans, but not when it comes to
the Fuel at this point.
Not when it comes to the Bison and the Fuel, but that kind of just adds to the fire of like.
I would normally be a fan of them, but at the same time, the ECHL is enough removed from the NHL that there's not too many movement between players like up and down from the ECHL to the NHL. So I'm not like having to be that conflicted with those two. And while I like the Ice Hogs, it's like, like when Kevin Lombardi comes down and plays for the Fuel, I become a fan of him to not being a fan of him. It's fine.
I think it's maybe I didn't say that more correctly, but we're fans of maybe players individually. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the league overall, obviously, it's fun to have the two clash together. But I think it's just, I would say it's almost more of a rivalry than Iowa, in my opinion.
I think. I mean, at this point, it might be a little bit. I could agree with you. I still think Iowa's the greater rival just because of how hard they play every time. But the last 3 games are against Iowa, so we'll see comparatively. But no, that game, Indy actually dominated the shots in that game. It was 37-23 in favor of Indy, but
that's not the most important stat.
That's not the most important stat. We've talked about it.
Scoreboard.
Yep, that doesn't matter as long as the scoreboard says differently. And who else but Dryden McKay putting up a great stat line.
Your boy,
who else?
Dryden.
We definitely owe him a huge part to this end of season push. So huge ups to Dryden McKay. He has been great to end this season.
Should we set up a GoFundMe?
To just support Dryden McKay? Thank you. I don't know about that, but we do love Dryden McKay here on the Sin Bin Podcast. 35 saves on 37 shots. So great performance from them.
Outstanding.
And 4-2 win for the Bison. Goals coming from Lou Felix Denis, Chongmin Lee, and 2 coming from Riku Ishida on the back end. So he had a huge game there to propel the Bison to a win.
Defense creates offense. Sorry.
Well, that's what we were talking about last year. Remember how Carter Berger, we kept talking about how we needed a power play quarterback? Well, that's our guy. Not that Nikita Sedov can't do that as well, because he's definitely a top-end defenseman, but, having someone who's definitely a power play quarterback doesn't hurt. And Riku Ishida is definitely that. Next was that Kalamazoo game. That was the second most important game.
That was tough.
And that one was a tough game.
That
Yeah,
was tough.
3-1 loss at home. It was pretty even in shots, but just beaten. They played great in net. We scored the first goal, and then they just scored one literally like 10 seconds later when we scored our first goal. It felt like we couldn't get anything past them in the first, and then we finally broke it about halfway through, and then they just immediately went right back and scored, and it was so deflating. And then from there, you couldn't get... We got pressure on net. We dominated the third in terms of shots, but just could not solve their netminder and ended up losing that game. And a lot of people were, I think myself included, were really worried about our playoff hopes after that loss, because Kalamazoo is one of the ones we were really fighting for. And after that game, we were fourth out of the 4 teams fighting for it. We ended up having our 3 games against Greenville, and that's where we started doing a lot better.
They turned the fire on.
Oh, they
Greenville.
turned the fire on, and it wasn't even like easy to. Kyle Jackson, before that game, was called up to Hartford. Don't get me started on Hartford right now. They're currently last in their division.
Don't do it, Dylan.
And are calling up our best players despite not competing for basically anything. But whatever. I was also trying to find like an AHL injury report, and for some reason, it is harder to find an AHL injury report than it is to find an ECHL injury report. I don't know why that is, but AHL, get on it, because unless there are a lot of injuries in Hartford, it doesn't make any sense why they keep calling us our players when there are like 3 games left in their season and they're last in their division. Like, they're not making the playoffs.
I saw a lot of...
What are you doing? At least Kyle Jackson and later Sullivan Mack, who was called up, at least they were playing finally. So at least they when they're calling up, they're actually they're getting them to play. So I appreciate that much, but Hartford has been quite annoying me recently.
I was going to say, I saw a lot of comments on Facebook. If you're a part of the fan page, I saw a lot of our listeners complaining about Hartford taking those guys, and it's certainly not easy, and it makes Barsky's job a lot harder. Granted, I will say one thing, talking about that Kalamazoo loss, just quickly going back on that, the one quote that stood out to me, and I would expect him to say this, as he should, but he said there was no excuses for how they played against that game, and I think how much is that coach talk? Probably a good amount of it, because I think that's probably what you're expected to say after a performance like that, but I also think it's important to note that sometimes, even though coaches are expected to say that kind of stuff, that does not go unnoticed in the locker room by the players. I think the players certainly responded well, obviously, in Greenville, but those messages, well, we expect the coach to say that and take ownership. I think a lot of times players pay attention to what their head coach says in the media.
Absolutely.
And they took that to heart, and credit to the players on that one.
Oh, no, seriously. I mean, this weekend, it was and especially with how good Dryden McKay has been recently, the first game was a barn burner, 8-5. It was ridiculous. And I don't think Dryden McKay has allowed 5 goals all season.
It should have never been that close either.
Yeah.
I mean, they had, forgive me, I don't remember the score after the first period off the top of my head, but it was not even close.
It was 5-1 after the first period.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're leading after one period 5-1, and you're telling me the final score was 8-5. Like, those are the type of games that I mean, honestly, we should have probably won that 13-1. Like, you need to take control of those games and not let it get too close, because in the playoffs, they might come back to win those games.
What I like is, again, as you said, they really responded. That first period, like, the whole thing was they couldn't beat the goalie in Kalamazoo. So the first period after that game, 5 goals.
Most goals in a period, I think, in team history.
I think so, yeah. And that is the response. That's the kind of response you want to see from the team there. And especially with Kyle Jackson. And at that point, Sullivan Mack wasn't gone, but I think he had 2 of those goals. But when you're let's be honest, they're your best player in Kyle Jackson, the highest, at least in points per game wise, your best player is called up, and then to respond like that, and then even after that, Sullivan Mack stepped up in that game, but then the next game, 3-2 shootout win, and you know who had the shootout winner in that game?
Tell me, Dylan.
Ilya Suglian.
Ooh,
I think I'm saying that correct, but either way, that's what you need. Someone who hasn't been playing for weeks at this point and gets in the lineup and gets the shootout winner. That is the kind of response.
The unlikely hero.
Exactly. That's the kind of response you need. And some great individual efforts from those players as well. And in the final game, a 4-0 win. So a sweep on the weekend, 3 straight wins at Greenville. Not that Greenville's necessarily the best team, but doesn't matter. A win's a win. And in that game, another person who had been scratched the last few games in Mark Kalani Kovas, and he comes out, scores 2, he had a primary assist and a goal in that game. Goals by Gore, Denis, Ott, and Kalani Kovas. And again, goal and an assist.
Gore has come on strong too.
Oh, don't get me wrong with Gore. We have had, let's be entirely honest, really rough luck at the end of this season. Eddie's been gone for nearly 2 weeks with a concussion.
Yeah, I hope you're okay, Eddie.
Shout out Eddie.
You're doing good, man.
Hope you're doing all right. Concussions, trust me, I know concussions, and they are no joke. So, hoping speedy recovery on that one for your sake. And if you need to take more time, do whatever it is. Those are no joke. But seriously, like, guys stepping up. Chongmin Lee with the 2 secondary assists on that first one. Suglian with the assist on the Denny Gore goal. Denny Gore been the guy who's really stepped up since we've traded for him. Thank you, Greensboro. He has been insane since he's come to Bloomington. So he's been really stepping up. An assist by Colin Ferguson in that game.
Yes,
I
sir.
love to see that. You know that I am a Colin Ferguson stan here, and he has been scratched the last couple of games. And while I do like Kyler Wall, and he has produced pretty well so far after picking him up from Kalamazoo, but I still am a huge Colin Ferguson fan. I still think he does all of the little things right, and despite the fact that, at least comparatively to other defensemen, he might be a little smaller, but it doesn't matter if you're good. Like, it shouldn't matter if you can maybe get bounced off the puck, because Colin Ferguson both has the bite to play and has those small, intricate details playing the game correctly. And there goes Buster eating my shoe. Whatever. But yeah, no, seriously, so shout out to Colin Ferguson. Like to see him back in the lineup. I'm also really excited to see, I hope in these last 3 games, like, I don't want to mess with team chemistry, so I don't know if they're going to throw him in, but Mason Wheeler, signing from the Frozen Four, the first round of the Frozen Four, Minnesota State was bounced, and Minnesota State, probably one of the best teams in their division. The 4-year player at Minnesota State was 2 years an assistant captain, and this past year, an assistant captain at a Frozen Four level team. So, I mean, he's not going to put up a ton of points, and he's not necessarily the tallest defenseman, but I would love to see him get some game action, because I'm sure he's someone who's probably similar to a Cullen Ferguson, and if that means that you have to swap out Ferguson, I don't know if you do, because again, I'm a big fan of Ferguson. I think he's probably the right choice out of those two, just because Mason Wheeler is, a 4-year college player instead of playing pro yet, and Ferguson has had this whole year. But Buster, he keeps trying to get Abe. He loves Abe, but he's not getting him. You seeing this? Are you seeing this? You're not getting it. No. It's ridiculous. Abe in my shoe. It's ridiculous. Anyway, but seriously, 4-year player at Minnesota State, a captain this past year. I would love to see him get a chance I know our left side is so good right now, so it's kind of hard to throw a left-handed defenseman when we have Sedov, we have Ferguson, and then you also have someone who's been playing really well in Sung-Jae Lee. But I think you could at least consider at least one game, maybe throwing Wheeler in there instead of like a Lee. Not that Lee's been playing bad at all, but just to see what you have in him. And I know obviously that's not a great thing when you're doing it when you're fighting for a playoff spot still, and you don't want to test things when you're still fighting for a playoff spot. But also, I think I'd rather test it against Iowa than I would against either Toledo or Fort Wayne in the first round of the playoffs. So
I would agree with that statement. I will say I would probably go the other direction in wanting to play. I'll put it like this: if you go into these last games and let's say you're just absolutely getting destroyed, like,
do you need to make a change?
have them dressed or whatever. If you're getting destroyed, put them in. But for me, I would say don't screw up the lineup, in my opinion. I would just play the same people. I'm sure he's a great player.
Keep
I'm not
chemistry,
taking anything away
Ishida
from him.
and Lee have had great chemistry.
I would say if you're
specifically that bottom
Barsky,
pair. So
keep what you got, because we haven't made the playoffs yet in our history. So I don't know. I would personally rather make the playoffs.
You're right.
I think you would agree as well. But
I would agree. I just
if
think
you're getting kicked in, let him play.
I mean, obviously Barsky knows better is in the playoffs, but and what works better with team chemistry and all that. But I truly think that I mean that player is just. I mean, you play for an organization like Minnesota State. That is a high end. Again, just made the Frozen Four tournament. Didn't make the actual Frozen Four, Final Four, but like made the tournament.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure they won their division. So like, and he's the captain of that team. He may not be a big point producer, but like someone like Ferguson or Lee aren't necessarily huge point producers either. So again, I trust Barsky. I'm not going to tell you to take anybody out, but I would also maybe love to see him get an opportunity as well, just because of how good that pedigree is.
Could be an opportunity, one of those things that if because experience is important. We talk about it all the time. Like,
yes,
you need to get young guys experience. So it could be one of those situations if Barsky feels like it's a good time to put him in and get a young guy experience, I'm fine with it. But if
I'll trust Barsky's
the last game of the season and you're, holding on to a lead, probably not the time to put him in, but what do I know? I'm not an ECHL coach.
Right, well, final thing, this will be a shorter episode. We are trying to be more streamlined in our episodes so you don't have 50 minutes of us rambling a little bit. But
Come on, you love us rambling, right?
Well, of course you love us rambling. That's why you're here. But, a little bit, maybe a little bit more streamlined wouldn't hurt. But no, the playoff picture. So let's look at the standings right now. It's so funny to look at the different standings because we are what is it? The only division left that isn't completely decided.
Go Central.
The North is already decided. The South is already decided with the Ghost Pirates taking that last spot. The Mountain is already decided with the Tahoe Night Monsters clinching that final spot over the Grizzlies, which is, I'm honestly shocked the Grizzlies were that close to making it at the end of the year. They did not have a good start to the year, but they kind of came back at the end of it, though. I will say the Mountain division isn't necessarily the best, but oh well. But point is, the Central, only division that doesn't have both of their playoff spot or last two playoff spots decided, and both of their, and then not just one, but two playoff spots. They still have multiple teams competing. And right now, the Indy Fuel are at 76 points, the Bison and Cyclones are at 75, and the Kalamazoo Wings are at 74. The Bison and Wings have 3 games left to be played, and the Cyclones and Fuel have 2 left to be played. So I'll also go over what those matchups are going to be. The Fuel, because this is what's really good for the Bison. Noting their last 10 games, it's kind of funny. The Wings are 7-3, the Cyclones are 6-3-1, the Bison are 6-3-1, and then the Fuel are 3-6-1. So while a lot of those, while like the Cyclones, the Wings, and the Bison are all on relatively hot streaks, the Fuel have been kind of cold as of late. And not only that, but their final 2 matchups are away, and they're against the the Fort Wayne Comets, who currently lead our division, and the Wheeling Nailers, who currently lead the North Division. And I think they already clinched the North Division as well. So they're 2 really hard away games. So nothing to scoff at there. They're going to have 2 rough games. Obviously, if they were to lose those 2 games, huge for the Bison there, if they can lose those 2 games. And then, luckily, the Cyclones and Wings, those 2 teams are the final the Cyclones' final 2 games are against the Wings. So they can't both get 2 points. Even if they both do well, they both can't do amazing because they're against each other.
Don't go into overtime.
Exactly. Don't go into overtime, please. But then the Wings are the only other team that has 3 games left to be played, like the Bison do. And their last game is also away at the Fort Wayne Comets. So, another really hard game along with their 2 games against the Cyclones. So, it's not necessarily a cakewalk, but the Bison's last 3 games are against Iowa. 1 away and 2 at home. Those are all very winnable games, especially against Iowa, who currently is last in the division. It's not going to be necessarily easy. It's not that, games against Iowa are never necessarily easy, but very winnable games. And right now, the Bison control their own destiny. If you win out, you make the playoffs. And that's just straight up. If you win out, you make the playoffs. If they don't win out, you gotta hope that a couple of those teams lose those games, and you gotta at least win 2 or 3, especially against a team like Iowa with 2 games, the final 2 games at home. You gotta be winning those games, especially. At home, final 2 games this season for the playoff push. This is it.
The way that last year ended and this year ended is
entirely different.
Different opponents, but last year, if you asked me if we were going to make the playoffs, I thought we were going to make the playoffs. I hoped we were going to make the playoffs. I wasn't as confident. This year, very different feeling.
I wasn't confident after the Kalamazoo game. After that 3-game stand against Greenville, I'm confident because they responded without their best player. So I am putting faith in the Bison. They have 3 games left. All right. This is it. These are playoff games at this point.
100%.
Now that you're in a win and in scenario with your last 3 games, if you win out, you're in. I'm not telling you that winning 6 games in a row would be easy because that's incredibly hard, especially in this league. But if you win 3 games, if you win these last 3 games against an opponent that is not necessarily very good, you will make the playoffs.
Hey.
Anyway, back to it. Sorry, had another Buster moment, of course. But yeah, no, the likelihood, I think, this year, especially compared to last year, I'm a lot more confident in this group.
Way more
I think we're a better group than we were last year. I think there's also a chance, I don't think you want to rely on it, but I think there's a chance that we have some people maybe coming back. You could have someone like Jackson or Mack be sent back down, depending on if Hartford decides that they actually know that they're not going to make the playoffs anymore. Don't get me started again, but that's what I'm saying. You have 3 games left. You are in a win and in scenario. Let's do it. Last thing. But Indy right now, despite being a point above us, has 2 less wins than us. So, especially with their last 2 games being away and against hard teams, I am severely hoping for 2 losses because that team with 2 less they have less wins than both the Bison, Cyclones, and Wings. If they make it in on loser points, you know how I feel about loser points. I am not going to be happy. All right? And especially after what they did last year in stealing the last playoff spot and then just getting absolutely trampled by Toledo, if they're one of the last 2 playoff teams, I am I am not going to be happy because let's be honest, I think the Wings or Cyclones could push Toledo or Fort Wayne. I don't necessarily think they're guaranteed to win a game or not win a game, win the series, but like I think both the Cyclones and the Wings at least have a chance to, especially with how hot they've been, especially to be competitive or maybe even if things go right, win the series. I don't think the Fuel can do that. I truly don't.
I think I will say, going along with the more confident thing, last year we put ourselves in a position to make the playoffs.
Yep.
We just didn't get it done.
And then we let it go. I'll be honest, we choked it away in the last week. We lost all of our final games.
We absolutely did.
And let it get away from us. And this year, I don't think
we're going to do that.
I think especially having done that last year, I think there is a good chance that we put pedal to the metal and say, no.
The mindset
we're making the playoffs
is always to win, I think.
Of course.
And I think if we can go 6-0, then go 6-0. I think we should do that. The numbers are more in our favor this year, I think.
I do think so too.
Because if you go 6-0, you make the playoffs and you're in no matter what. The likelihood of that happening, I hate to say it, probably not going to happen.
Also,
just with numbers. But if other teams can lose, you always want to make it a situation where you don't have to count on teams losing.
Yep.
I don't think we have to count on teams losing.
But it'd be nice if they did.
But it sure would help.
Yeah.
And it sure will help.
Yeah. So, that should be about it. Hopefully, those Bison put on. And also, I was going to say, with the Iowa Heartlanders suspending team activities for next year.
Oh, yes.
This could be that last game. I mean, the first game on Thursday, or not on Thursday, on Wednesday, will be the last game possibly at Extreme Arena. And then the last two games should be the last two Heartlanders games, period. It could be if they don't resume after next season.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, their last game possibly in their franchise history, they're going to be wearing Squidward jerseys. Brutal. Just brutal for the Heartlanders there.
I got to say, this is totally not ECHO related, but I don't care. Squidward is probably my least favorite character of SpongeBob.
Really?
Yep.
I always understood him. I at least as an adult, I get where he's coming from a little bit.
I despise Squidward, actually. But that has nothing.
And with that we'll end on that note, despising Squidward, I guess. We'll put that into good effect as we can despise the Heartlanders in the final game. Definitely, if you guys are in the area, get some tickets for that final game. It'll be funny to see the last Iowa Heartlanders game in Squidward jerseys. We will be wearing SpongeBob jerseys because of the rescheduled games. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys maybe one more time before the end of the season. So stay tuned.